Welcome back to the KJ Methods YouTube channel. Glad you're here. We are on the practice of real estate test part 5. We've already done 1 through 4. We've done contracts, 5 parts, as well as agency, 5 parts. So be sure to go back and take a look at those. Before we get started, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Let me know in the comments how you're doing. Are these test questions and this style of explanation really helping you? So without further ado, let's get started. 41. A licensee is listing a rural property. The property was owned by a woman who is now deceased. The woman had 6 grown children. 2 of the sons are listing the property for sale. Before completing the listing agreement, the licensee should do which of the following? A. Check the woman's will to ascertain who the heirs are. B. Require all 6 children to sign a quitclaim deed. C. Have the woman's attorney sign a release of title. Or D. Check the ownership of record. Of course, guys, it's going to be D. This is the easiest way to find out who has authority to sell a house. Just check the ownership of record. On A and B, please understand that even though you're learning about all of these things in real estate, make sure to stay within your wheelhouse. You're not now an attorney. You're not checking a will. You're not having people sign quitclaim deed. All right. 42 is a Catholic who lists her house with you and refuses to sell her house to a Frenchman because he doesn't speak English, in violation of any law. A. No, as long as she is the owner-occupant and doesn't use any discriminatory advertising. B. No, because a broker was used. C. Yes, she is in violation of the Fair Housing Act. And D. Yes, she is in violation of the Truth in Selling Act. So what say you on this one? Is she in violation of any law? Well, yes, of course she is in violation of the Fair Housing Act. But I want you to be careful here. This is not saying she can never do this. She may be able to come under an exemption. The reason why she can't do it here is because she used a broker. If she tried to sell it on her own and she didn't use any discriminatory advertising and she didn't use a broker, then she would be able to discriminate in this manner because it comes under one of the fair housing exemptions, and you need to know those. 43. 4 brokers get together and decide to improve service they each need to concentrate on separate parts of the city. And they agree to split the city into sections, with each broker agreeing to do business in one section of the city. One is going to get the northeast, one is going to get the southeast, one is going to get the northwest, and one is going to get the southwest section of the city. They do not agree to set commissions. Are they in violation of any law in doing this? Hopefully there's a certain law coming to mind for you. A. No, they did not fix commissions and therefore not in violation of Sherman Antitrust Act. B. No, they have not violated the law because their actions will improve service. C. Yes, they have violated Sherman Antitrust because this action restricts competition. And D. Yes, they have violated the federal fair housing laws because their actions are the same as steering. So what do you think here? 4 brokers get together. You can only work in that section. You can only work in that section of the city. Well, that is going to be a clear violation of Sherman because it is restricting competition. In other words, Ms. Jones wants to go buy a house in the Northeast. She only has one broker that she can work with there. So it is restricting her ability to choose anyone she wants. You don't have to set commissions. Anything that you do together that is going to limit competition is going to be a Sherman violation. 44. John bought a property and got a $6,000 quote for a new deck. However, the building inspector came out and indicated that there was a new code and that there are additional building materials that must be used for the deck. The new materials brought the cost up to $12,000. Does John have any recourse? Can he fight this? A, no, he cannot collect the money because there is no right to compensation when the government exercises its police power. B, yes, he can sue the county's building department for the money. C, no, because John should have known the building code. Or D, yes, he is entitled to be compensated by the building department. Now, a lot of times you guys get all confused by questions. I need you to understand what is the root of the question here. What are they asking you? They're asking you if he got a $6,000 quote, building inspector comes out and says, hey, nope, there's a new code. It's going to cost you $12,000. Well, we are in A. No, he is not going to be able to collect the money. He's not going to be able to sue, anything of that nature. Why? Because there's no right to compensation when the government is exercising its police power rights. And that's what it's doing here. Don't forget, police power is putting pressure on the property. They're not taking the property. They're just making these rules that may cost you more. And if it costs you more, too bad, so sad for you. You do not get any money. So for people who would have picked C, no, because John should have known the building code, that is absolutely true. That's a true answer. But A is a better answer because it gets to the root of what the question is asking. 45. Mary hasn't paid her property taxes in over a year, and the county has put a lien on her property. The county will be selling the lien at a tax sale next week. What could Mary do? A, she could pay all the taxes prior to the sale under what we call an equitable right of redemption. B, she can pay all of the taxes prior to the sale under what we call a statutory right of redemption. She can't do anything under C, nothing. It's too late to do anything at this point. And D, she could sue the county and prevent them from selling the lien. Now, we are on the national test. I am only going over national test questions here, okay, your national portion of the test. So the correct answer here will be A. She can pay all of the taxes prior to the sale because since the sale did not happen yet, we're under an equitable right of redemption, not statutory. Statutory is after the sale occurred. So please notice right here, I put what can Mary do? And then I put a little asterisk there. Why is the asterisk there? Because your state law, when you take your state portion of your test, the answer may be different. But for the national portion, it is going to be A. 46. A husband and wife have owned a property for 5 years. They have occupied it for the last 3 years. They bought the property for $290,000 and they sold it for $810,000. On what amount would they pay in capital gains tax? This is, do you understand this Tax Reinvestment Act of 1997 that says if you're married and you have lived in the property and owned it at least 2 of 5 years, and so this says they owned it 5 years, you're going to get an exemption, meaning freebie of $500,000, okay? Freebie in sale. So here, $810,000, take away $290, just take $290 from it. How much is left over? $520. But they get how much in freebie? $500. So the answer here is C. They only will pay taxes, capital gains, on $20,000. Okay? This is for owner occupants. 47. Mrs. Jones decides that she doesn't want to rent her 1 to 4 unit property to men. Is this permissible? A, no, discrimination is never tolerated. I hope you learned by now, do not pick that answer. B, yes, as long as she resides in the property also and does not use a broker. C, yes, because men are not in a protected class. D, yes, as long as the broker places a restriction in the advertisement. And so again, we've done this one a couple of times. Can Miss Jones not rent? Sure, she cannot rent as long as she resides in the property or is the most recent resident. She doesn't use a broker. She doesn't use any discriminatory advertising, and she doesn't own more than 3 properties. If she can fulfill all of that criteria, then yes, she can discriminate against any of the protected classes except race. 48. Agent Brown decides to only show properties to her African American clients, the Smiths, in an African American neighborhood. This is an example of. Should be real clear. You answer this, you move on. Is that A, blockbusting, B, steering, C, redlining, or D, none of the above? Only showing to certain neighborhoods based on race is going to be steering. 49. A landlord of a subdivision complex decides to place all families with children under 18 in buildings A, B, and C. Is that okay for them to do? Well, A, yes, as long as he doesn't deny them housing. B, no, this would be a fair housing violation. C, yes, because children under 18 are not in a protected class. And D, no, because under the government's police power, this isn't permissible. Well, this is not police power, this is fair housing. You know under 18 is in a protected class, so C and D is wrong. So can you do this? If you are letting them live there, but you're saying everybody got to be in these buildings with families. So those are the family buildings over there. We don't want you over here. Can they do it? No, they cannot do it. That is still going to be a fair housing violation. You're not allowed to treat people who are minorities, right? Children would be minorities. They're a protected class. Under family, you're not allowed to treat them different. 50. You are the agent selling a property that was built in 1972. What are your obligations relating to lead, regarding lead? A, tell the buyer that lead is on the premises since the property was built in 1972. B, there are no further obligations relating to lead since the property was built in 1972 and not 1973. C, have the buyer and seller fill out lead-based paint disclosure and have the seller test for lead. D, allow the buyer 10 days to inspect for lead and ensure that the lead-based paint disclosure is signed by both parties. Well, what is the answer here? It would be D. We are going to just allow the buyer 10 additional days to test for lead. Do they have to test? No. Can they test? Sure. If they don't want to test, they don't have to. But we're going to just let them know this house was built before 1978. You have 10 additional days to test for lead if you want to, and we're going to sign these disclosures. C is incorrect, right? Because the seller does not test for lead. It is the buyer who tests for lead. All right, that wasn't too bad. Real estate practice. Wow, it has a lot of information on fair housing, but if you could understand fair housing, Sherman antitrust law, right? It's just kind of these federal laws. If you can understand those, particularly, like I said, fair housing, Sherman antitrust, you can do really well on this portion because they tested a lot, but it's not so much information. You just got to understand the exemptions. So that is it for our practice of real estate. We're going to move into property ownership next, unless you guys decide that we're going to do this live session in between. I think that would be something good for us to do. All right, we'll talk more about that, but please, in the comments, let me know if these are helping you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Keep watching. Let me know how you're doing, and I will see you guys the next time. Thanks for stopping by the KJ Method.